Welcome to the Heaven Speaks Blogcast, a space to pause and remember who heaven says you are. Here, you'll hear words that anchor you in your identity as a son of God and co-heir with Christ. Let's begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Heaven Speaks Blogcast. I am Trelena, and today we are talking about authority after failure. Walking in your calling again. Let's get started. Have you ever asked yourself, can I still carry authority after failure? You're not the only one. Failure has a way of whispering lies that you're disqualified, that God can't trust you anymore, that your story is over. But here's the truth. Authority after failure isn't lost. It's refined. Your authority was never built on perfection in the first place. It was always rooted in Him. And sometimes the weight of failure doesn't come from one big collapse. It can be the slow sting of shame, building over years of choices and doubts or disappointments. Maybe it looks like this.
I'm Michael. I poured years into ministry, late nights, endless meetings, giving everything I had. But burnout left me bitter and empty. I walked away, and now I wonder, did God's mantle lift when I left? Can He still trust me with His call?
My name's David. I stumbled into compromise, into choices I regret, even into addiction. And shame tells me I've lost the right to speak with authority. I wonder if I've disqualified myself from the call God once placed on me.
I'm Naomi. When people were counting on me, I withdrew. I pulled back when it mattered most. Now I feel like I broke trust with others and maybe even with God. Can He really restore someone who walked away?
If any of that resonates, you're not alone. And here's the truth you need to hear. Authority doesn't begin with us, so it can't end with us.
Where authority really comes from.
Authority is not a reward for flawless performance. It is the overflow of God's authorship. Psalms 139:16 says,
All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be.
Your authority was written into your scroll before you even breathed your first breath. It's anchored in His design, not your perfection. He authored your life, your gifts, your calling, and what He authors, no failure can erase. Authority also flows from intimacy. Jude 1:24 reminds us that God is able to keep you from falling. Walking with Him doesn't mean you'll never stumble, but it does mean His hand is steady enough to hold you when you do.
Authority as sons and daughters.
Authority is amplified when you know who you are, not just as a believer, but as a son or daughter of God. When you see yourself through His eyes, one who is chosen, seated with Christ in heavenly places, Ephesians 2:6, a royal priesthood, 1 Peter 2:9, it reframes failure. Instead of disqualification, you begin to see purification. Instead of shame, you begin to see mercy shaping you into holiness. And like any good father, He isn't standing there with a clipboard tallying up your stumbles. Think of how parents watch a baby learn to walk. Every shaky step is met with joy and encouragement, not rejection. Even when they fall, the instinct is to cheer, scoop them up, and urge them to keep going. If that's how we respond as imperfect parents, how much more does God rejoice as we learn to walk out our authority in Him?
purified in the fire.
Sometimes God allows our shortfalls or circumstances to reveal what's in our hearts, not to shame us, but to refine us. Like gold tested in fire, failure and calling often meet in the same place, where shame gets refined and intimacy and authority are restored. Pride, self-reliance, fear of man, these all get exposed when we stumble. And in that exposure, God offers purification. Greater authority comes through greater surrender. Holiness and righteousness aren't about never falling, but about letting Him draw you back into wholeness every time you do.
The tension between holiness and grace.
Whenever Christians talk about authority after failure, two extremes often rise up. On one side is the religious voice that says, God is too holy to look at you after sin. You've ruined your chance. It's true that God is holy and just. His eyes are pure. But the whole reason Jesus came was to bridge that gap. The cross means your failure doesn't have the final word. Through His blood, God sees you as righteous. He doesn't look away from you. He looks at you through Christ. On the other side is the hyper grace mindset that says, it doesn't matter what I do. God's grace covers it anyway. Well, grace is not a free pass to stay in sin. It's the power to rise out of it. Titus 2:11-12 says,
The grace of God teaches us to say no to ungodliness.
True grace always leads to transformation, not apathy. Authority sits in the middle of these two extremes. God's holiness keeps us from taking sin lightly, and His grace keeps us from drowning in shame. Both meet in Christ, who calls us higher while holding us close.
The key of surrender.
Here's the kingdom paradox. Some of the very failures that make us feel disqualified actually happen when we try to carry authority in our own strength. We were never called to walk this road alone. Authority is not self-generated. It's yielded. Jesus said,
I am the vine, you are the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing. John 15:5.
The key is not striving harder, but yielding deeper. When you surrender to His lordship, pruning and restoration become part of the journey. And pruning is never punishment. It's preparation for greater fruitfulness.
What if I fail again?
Many believers quietly ask, can Christians still have authority after failure if they stumble again? Well, here's the comfort. God's mercy doesn't come with an expiration date.
His mercies are new every morning. Lamentations 3:23.
Your authority isn't fragile, balanced on your ability to never make a mistake again. It's held in the hands of the one who already knew every stumble and still called you anyway. Failure may happen again, but it can't undo His authorship, His calling, or His covering. The invitation is to keep yielding, to keep walking, and keep letting intimacy anchor you when your own strength runs out.
Walking in authority after failure.
So, where does this leave us? Failure does not revoke God's call. Authority isn't stripped when you stumble. It's refined through intimacy. What qualifies you is sonship, not perfection. And what restores you is surrender, not striving. You see, when you yield to Him, He turns ashes into testimony. Out of weakness, He clothes you in strength. Out of hiding, He calls you into light. Authority in Christ remains, and heaven still backs you when you rise. I have a declaration for you. The gifts and calling of God in my life are irrevocable. They were written in His scroll before I was born. Failure cannot revoke them. Burnout cannot strip them. Shame cannot silence them. My authority rests in Christ and flows from intimacy with Him. I surrender my own strength and yield to His lordship. I am His son or daughter, clothed in His mantle, walking again in His strength. Heaven is still speaking. Walk in the confidence of who you are as a son and co-heir in Christ. Find more encouragement at heavenspeaks.co. Until next time, stay anchored in truth.